A woman who lives alone without a man is not weak, she is not forgotten, and she is not abandoned. She is chosen by God to walk a path that many fear, but few understand. She carries a strength that does not come from flesh and blood, but from the unseen hand of God who upholds her, protects her, and lifts her higher than the opinions of society. The world may whisper lies saying, she is lonely, she is incomplete, she is less than. But God thunders a greater truth. You are whole because I am with you. You are complete because I created you. You are strong because I dwell within you. From the very beginning of time, God has been close to those who walk the path of solitude. Alone in the wilderness, alone in the silence, alone in the shadows, God has always been near to those who have no one else to lean on. When a woman finds herself living without a man, she must understand that this is not the absence of blessing, but the presence of a divine calling. She is being invited into a deeper trust, a higher faith, and an unshakable reliance on God alone. The voices of society may press her with questions. Why are you alone? Why is there no man by your side? But the voice of God whispers a far greater assurance. I am by your side. I am closer than any human could ever be. I am your protector, your provider, your defender, and your friend. What greater companionship could a woman have than the eternal presence of the Almighty? What greater covering could she rest under than the wings of God Himself? Let me tell you something. Loneliness is not the same as being alone. A woman may sit in a crowded room and still feel empty if God is not with her. Yet a woman who lives alone with no man, but with God by her side, will never truly be lonely. For the presence of God fills her home, surrounds her bed, and walks with her through every street. She is never without love, never without hope, never without power, because God has chosen her as His vessel. Do not let the world define your worth by a ring on your finger or a man by your side. God does not measure you by human standards. He measures you by the faith that beats in your heart. He measures you by the courage that rises in your soul when you wake each morning to face life without leaning on anyone but Him. That is strength. That is beauty. That is power. And no man, no critic, no voice of doubt can take it away from you. A woman who lives alone without a man becomes dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Why? Because she learns to depend on no one but God. She does not wait on human approval. She does not crumble when support is withdrawn. She does not give up when others walk away. She has trained her spirit to hear the voice of God above every other voice. She has learned to stand tall, to fight hard, and to walk boldly, because she knows her life is not in the hands of man, it is in the hands of God. And I say to every woman who hears these words, you may feel the sting of rejection, the ache of abandonment, the weight of being misunderstood. But hear me clearly, God has not rejected you, God has not abandoned you, and God will never misunderstand you. He knows the secret battles you fight behind closed doors. He sees the tears you wipe away when no one else is watching. He hears the silent prayers you whisper in the middle of the night. And He is answering. He is shaping you into a warrior of faith, into a vessel of power, into a testimony that will shake generations. Do not envy those who boast of their relationships. Do not covet the lives of those who seem to have what you lack. What they have may not always be what it seems. But what you carry is eternal. It is the presence of God. What you hold is priceless. It is the peace of God. What you walk with is unstoppable. It is the power of God. The enemy wants you to believe that you are incomplete without a man, but God wants you to know that you are already whole. The enemy wants you to feel like a victim of your circumstances, but God wants you to rise as a victor in His strength. The enemy wants you to bow under the weight of loneliness, but God calls you to stand tall, to walk with dignity, and to shine with the radiant beauty of one who is chosen and cherished by Him. When you rise in the morning and there is no one beside you, know that God is beside you. When you go to work and carry burdens others do not see, know that God is carrying you. When you return to a home that feels silent and still, know that the voice of God is speaking peace into those walls. You are not unseen. You are not unheard. You are not unloved. You are a woman under divine protection, divine guidance, and divine purpose. And let me say this with all the power of conviction: many of the greatest women in history, many of the most powerful voices of truth, many of the strongest hearts that shaped the course of time, stood alone. They did not have a man to shield them. They did not have a partner to strengthen them, but they had God. And with God, they stood taller than kings. They walked through fire, they overcame mountains, and they became legends. You are not small. You are not forgotten. You are not cursed. You are chosen. You are strong. You are equipped. And you are enough because God has called you, filled you, and placed His hand upon your life. A woman who lives alone without a man is not standing in weakness. She is standing in the very training ground of God. This place of solitude is not an accident. It is not a mistake. It is not a punishment. It is a divine season where God Himself becomes her closest companion. In the silence of her home, He speaks louder than the noise of the world. In the stillness of her nights, He wraps her in a peace that no human presence could ever provide. The world may tell her she is lacking, but God is filling her cup until it overflows. There is a power in walking alone with God that the world cannot understand. For when you walk alone with God, you begin to see Him in ways others cannot see. You begin to hear Him in whispers that others cannot hear. You begin to feel His strength in your bones when everyone else expects you to collapse. A woman who lives without a man but clings to God becomes a fortress of faith. She is a testimony that human companionship, while good is not the foundation of life, God is. She proves to the world that the human heart is sustained not by the presence of man, but by the presence of God. And do you know why God allows some women to walk this path? Because He wants to prove that His power is enough. He wants to show that His hand is stronger than any arm that could hold you. He wants to display that His love is more secure than any affection man could give. He wants to teach you that your identity is not wrapped in another person, but firmly rooted in Him. And once you know this truth, no one can ever strip it away from you. The eyes of others may try to measure you. They may say, "She has no husband, she has no partner, she is incomplete." But God looks upon you and says, "You are mine, you are complete in me. You are whole because I designed you whole." Let the voices of men fall silent before the voice of God. Let their judgments scatter like dust before the eternal decree that you are valuable, cherished, and protected. When a woman lives without a man, she learns a deeper kind of courage. She learns to walk through the market with her head held high, not because of who walks beside her, but because of who walks within her. She learns to face each bill, each responsibility, each challenge, not with fear, but with faith, saying, "God, you are my provider, and you will not fail me." She learns to sleep at night not with anxiety, but with assurance, whispering, "God, you are my protector, and you surround me like a shield." And let me tell you this, such a woman becomes unstoppable. Because the things that others rely on, she has learned to live without. The support that others cling to, she has learned to survive without. The validation that others crave, she has learned to stand tall without. Why? Because she has God. And if you have God, you lack nothing. The enemy trembles at such a woman, for he knows he cannot break her by removing people from her life. He knows he cannot destroy her by isolating her. He knows he cannot silence her by leaving her empty-handed. For her strength does not come from people, but from God. Her joy does not come from circumstances, but from God. Her courage does not come from human support, but from God. She is free from the chains of dependency, and therefore she is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Woman, hear this clearly: your solitude is not a shame. It is a stage. It is the platform where God will reveal His greatness in your life. He has set you apart, not pushed you aside. He has lifted you higher, not left you lower. You are not forgotten. You are handpicked for a greater display of His power. Think of the strength God is building in you right now. Every task you handle alone sharpens your faith. Every obstacle you face without help deepens your trust. Every tear you shed in the night waters the soil of your destiny. And every prayer you whisper in solitude rises as incense before the throne of God. You are not wasting away. You are being prepared, refined, empowered. When others see a woman who lives alone, they may pity her. But when heaven sees her, God smiles. For He knows that within her heart burns a fire that no storm can quench. Within her mind grows a clarity that no deception can cloud. Within her soul rests a peace that no chaos can steal. And all of this is because she has chosen to depend on Him alone. Do not despise your season of solitude. Do not curse the walls that surround you. Do not believe the lie that you are unloved. Lift your eyes and see, God is filling your home with His presence. God is walking with you into your workplace. God is surrounding you as you move through the streets. God is teaching you to rely on Him, and in that reliance, He is giving you a strength that even the strongest man could never give. Every morning you rise is a declaration that you are still standing, not because of human support, but because of divine strength. Every night you lay your head down in peace is proof that God Himself is your rest. Every step you take forward in faith is evidence that you are guided by the hand of the Almighty. And let me tell you, woman who walks alone, you are not walking toward emptiness. You are walking toward destiny. You are not walking in circles of despair. You are walking in paths of purpose. You are not living a life of less. You are living a life of more of God's presence, more of God's strength, more of God's glory. A woman who lives alone without a man must understand that her solitude is not a prison, but a holy classroom where God Himself is the teacher. The world may look at her life and call it incomplete, but God looks at her heart and calls it prepared. For what others call emptiness, God calls readiness. What others call loneliness, God calls intimacy with Him. And what others call weakness, God calls strength. God has a way of drawing near to those who walk without the crutches of human support. He does this because He wants them to lean entirely on Him. He wants them to know, deep in their soul, that He is the source of their provision, the fountain of their joy, the defender of their honor, and the keeper of their destiny. When you walk without a man but with God, you begin to see that the absence of human companionship does not mean the absence of love. It means the presence of a higher love, a love that does not fail, does not fade, does not turn away, and does not abandon. A woman who learns to live alone with God discovers a freedom that many others will never taste. She is free from the chains of comparison. She is free from the fear of rejection. She is free from the dependency that makes others crumble when people walk away. She rises each day not with desperation, but with determination, because she knows her worth is not tied to a man's presence, but anchored in God's eternal presence. That is true liberty, and it cannot be purchased with gold or found in the arms of flesh. It is given only by God. Do not let anyone tell you that you are half a person without a man. That is a lie whispered by the enemy to steal your confidence and shake your faith. God did not create you as half. God created you whole. You were not designed to be validated by another human being. You were designed to be validated by the voice of God that speaks over you. You are mine. You are enough. You are strong. When you walk in that truth, no critic, no gossip, no whispering tongue can diminish who you are. There is something deeply powerful about a woman who has been forced to fight her battles alone. She becomes resilient. She becomes sharp. She becomes wise in ways that those surrounded by comfort may never understand. She learns how to pray not as a ritual, but as a survival. She learns how to trust not as a theory, but as a lifestyle. She learns how to fight not with her fists, but with her faith. And every battle she survives makes her a greater warrior, a living testimony that God sustains those who depend on Him. And let me say this with conviction, God sometimes removes people from your life not because you are unworthy of them, but because they are unworthy of the destiny He has placed upon you. A woman who lives alone without a man may feel like she has been left behind, but the truth is she has been set apart for higher callings, set apart for deeper revelations, set apart for victories that others cannot carry. And in that separation, she is learning to walk so closely with God that when the storms rage, she remains unshaken. Do not confuse solitude with insignificance. Do not confuse independence with abandonment. Do not confuse silence with emptiness. The silence is where God speaks most clearly. The independence is where God shows His provision most powerfully. The solitude is where God reveals His greatest treasures. It is in the absence of people that the presence of God often shines the brightest. Think of the courage it takes for a woman to face each day alone, to walk into a world that often defines her by what she does not have, and yet to stand tall in what she does have, the presence of God. That is not weakness, that is extraordinary courage. It takes strength to live without leaning on another's shoulder, to sleep without another's reassurance, to walk without another's shadow. But when you have God, you have a foundation that no storm can shake. And I must remind you of this: God has always done His greatest works in those who walk alone. Look through the pages of history. Every person who carried a divine mission had to first learn solitude. They had to be separated. They had to be isolated. They had to be stripped of human dependence so that they would know beyond all doubt that it was God carrying them, God guiding them, God sustaining them. You, too, are in that line of destiny. You are not an exception. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. Every tear you cry in solitude is being counted by God. Every burden you lift alone is being noticed by Him. Every time you rise from your bed with courage when no one is watching, heaven is watching. And God is saying, "This is my daughter. This is my warrior. This is my chosen vessel." The world may not clap for you. People may not applaud your strength. But God Himself honors you, and His honor is greater than the praise of millions. Do not fear the whispers of people who do not understand your journey. They see only the surface, but God sees the depth. They see your empty chair, but God sees your full heart. They see your silent nights, but God hears your fervent prayers. They see your solitude, but God sees your intimacy with Him. And when the time is right, He will use your story to silence every doubt, to prove that His presence is enough, and to show the world that He can raise a woman without a man into a tower of strength and a beacon of light. And let me tell you this with fire in my voice: a woman who lives alone but walks with God is never truly alone. She is walking with the Creator of heaven and earth. She is guarded by the one who commands the armies of angels. She is guided by the hand that shaped galaxies. She is protected by the shield that no weapon can pierce. How can she be alone when she walks with the very author of life? A woman who lives alone without a man must see her life not as a valley of despair, but as a mountain of divine opportunity. God has allowed her to walk this path because He knows the power He planted within her spirit. He knows that when she relies on Him alone, she becomes unstoppable. He knows that when she carries her burdens to Him in prayer, those burdens turn into blessings. He knows that when she lifts her head, refusing to bow to shame, she carries a testimony that will shake the very foundations of doubt around her. Too many people mistake solitude for weakness. They look at a woman with no man beside her, and they assume she is fragile, vulnerable, or broken. But those who walk with God in solitude are often the strongest people on earth. Why? Because they are trained to trust when there is no one else to trust. They are trained to fight battles with faith instead of with human backup. They are trained to listen to God's voice when no other voice is there to comfort them. And that training produces a strength that can never be shaken by circumstances. Let the world keep its shallow opinions. For the worth of a woman does not lie in the approval of men. It lies in the hands of God who created her. When God designed a woman He did not create her to be half of something. He created her whole, complete, and equipped with everything she needs to fulfill the destiny He has written for her. A woman without a man is not a woman without purpose. She is a woman whose purpose is being defined, refined, and strengthened by the very hand of God. Do not let anyone make you believe you are behind in life because you live alone. You are not behind. You are being positioned. God sometimes sets you apart to protect you from distractions that would have destroyed your spirit. He sometimes closes doors of companionship because He is opening higher doors of destiny. He sometimes removes human crutches so that you will learn to walk boldly in His strength. What seems like absence is often protection. What feels like rejection is often redirection. And what looks like loneliness is often preparation for a greater outpouring of His glory in your life. When a woman has no man to lean on, she learns to lean completely on God. And that is the greatest gift she could ever receive. Because men can fail, but God never fails. Men can walk away, but God never walks away. Men can misunderstand, but God knows every detail of her soul. Men can abandon, but God has promised to remain closer than her very breath. That assurance is the anchor that holds her steady when storms come. And let me declare this with conviction: a woman who lives alone and trusts in God is not at a disadvantage, she is at an advantage. For she is not distracted by dependence on man. She is focused on dependence on God. She does not compromise her faith for the sake of keeping someone beside her. She stands on truth even if she stands alone. And standing with God is never truly standing alone. It is standing with the power of the One who commands all creation. Her solitude sharpens her vision. She begins to see clearly the motives of those around her. She begins to discern truth from deception. She begins to understand the difference between those who come with pure intentions and those who come to take advantage. And that discernment is a shield from God, protecting her steps and guiding her away from traps that would have destroyed her. A woman who lives alone but listens to God becomes wise in ways the world cannot explain. This is why the enemy fears her. He knows that her faith cannot be manipulated by the opinions of men. He knows her heart cannot be stolen by false promises. He knows her spirit cannot be crushed by abandonment because she has already learned to thrive without human support. She has faced nights of silence and turned them into nights of prayer. She has faced mornings of uncertainty and turned them into mornings of worship. She has faced days of challenge and turned them into days of victory. That is the kind of strength that cannot be defeated. And let us not ignore this truth. Sometimes God removes certain people from your life because He wants to be your only source. He wants you to know that when the bills are paid, it was Him. When the door opens, it was Him. When the sickness lifts, it was Him. When the battle is won, it was Him. If you had leaned on man, you might have given the credit to man. But when you have no one but God, you learn to give all glory to Him. That is why your solitude is sacred. It keeps your faith pure and your testimony powerful. Woman, you are not to be pitied. You are to be honored. You are not to be overlooked. You are to be celebrated. For you carry within you a fire that comes only from walking with God in seasons where others would have crumbled. You have endured nights of crying, yet you rose with strength. You have carried loads that others thought would crush you, yet you stand unbroken. You have walked through storms, yet you shine with peace. That is not weakness. That is divine strength clothed in your soul. And hear me clearly, God is not finished with you. He has more for your life than what you see now. The very solitude that seems like a limitation is the soil where your greatest blessings will grow. The very emptiness that feels like a burden is the space God will fill with His abundance. The very silence that feels heavy now will soon resound with testimonies of His faithfulness. Do not despise this season. It is sacred. It is holy. It is God's hand preparing you for what is yet to come. A woman who lives alone without a man is walking a path that many fear, but few are strong enough to endure. Yet what looks like a wilderness to the world is in truth a sanctuary in the eyes of God. It is in this place of seeming emptiness that God fills her with abundance. It is in this place of solitude that He surrounds her with His presence. It is in this place of silence that His voice grows loudest, cutting through the lies of society, silencing the whispers of doubt, and declaring, "You are mine. You are strong. You are chosen." Do not mistake her silence for weakness. Do not mistake her independence for pride. Do not mistake her solitude for sorrow. A woman who has been drawn by God into the furnace of living without human support comes out refined, radiant, and resilient. Her faith is not fragile. It has been tested in the fires of reality. Her courage is not theoretical. It has been proven in the storms of life. Her peace is not shallow. It has been carved into her soul by the very hand of God. She is not an accident. She is not overlooked. She is not invisible. She is the very proof that God sustains those who trust in Him. For while others may depend on partners, possessions, or popularity, she depends on God alone. And because she depends on God alone, she cannot be shaken by what others lose. When people fail her, she stands. When support is removed, she remains. When critics rise, she endures. Because she is not held together by the fragile threads of human approval. She is held together by the eternal strength of God. The world may not understand how she survives. They may ask, how does she keep going without a man beside her? How does she handle the weight of life alone? And the answer is simple but profound. She is not alone. God is with her. God is in her. God is around her. God is before her and behind her. God is above her and beneath her. Her life is surrounded on every side by the presence of the Almighty. That is her secret strength, and that is why she rises when others expect her to fall. There is a unique blessing in being forced to walk alone, for in walking alone, you learn to hear what others cannot hear. You hear the whisper of God guiding your steps. You hear His assurance in the dead of night. You hear His encouragement when your heart feels heavy. Others may drown in the noise of constant companionship, but you, woman of God, have learned the power of silence. You have learned the power of leaning on Him, and that makes your faith sharper, your spirit stronger, and your life more aligned with His will. Do not despise the journey that God has placed you on. Every challenge you have faced alone is shaping you into a vessel of strength. Every bill you paid by faith, every tear you shed in prayer, every fear you overcame with courage, every step you took without reassurance, it was all training. Training to build in you a faith that no trial can destroy. Training to prepare you for a destiny that requires unshakable confidence in God. A training to turn you into a testimony of His power. When you walk into a room, the enemy sees not just a woman but a survivor. He sees a warrior. He sees someone who has stood with God when no one else stood with her. And that terrifies him, for he knows he cannot strip away from you what man never gave you. He knows he cannot threaten you with abandonment because you have already conquered life without human companionship. He knows he cannot break you with loneliness because you have already discovered that God's presence is enough. You are untouchable, not because life is easy, but because God has become your anchor. And understand this, God does not measure your worth by what others see. He measures it by what He has placed within you. The world may look at your empty house, but God looks at your full heart. The world may see what is missing, but God sees what is growing. The world may judge by appearances, but God judges by truth. And the truth is, you are not lacking. You are not incomplete. You are not broken. You are whole because God Himself fills every space in your soul. Some of the greatest lessons God teaches are given in solitude. In solitude, you learn that peace is not the absence of people, but the presence of God. In solitude, you learn that joy is not dependent on circumstances, but rooted in trust. In solitude, you learn that strength is not found in numbers, but in the one who holds all power. These lessons are not easily taught, but once learned, they become treasures that nothing in this world can steal. So to every woman living alone without a man, do not hang your head in shame. Do not believe the lie that you are forgotten. Do not let the enemy trick you into thinking you are unloved. Lift your eyes and see. God is with you. God is watching you. God is guiding you. God is shaping you. And God is preparing to use your story as proof that He is enough. The truth is, you are not living less of a life. You are living more. More trust in God. More intimacy with His presence. More freedom from the traps of human dependence. More clarity of purpose. More strength in your soul. More wisdom in your spirit. More fire in your prayers. More resilience in your heart. You are living a life that many cannot handle, and yet you are handling it with grace because God is carrying you. And let me speak this boldly: one day, those who pitied you will wonder how you became so strong. Those who whispered about your solitude will marvel at your influence. Those who judged your life will be silenced by your testimony. And when that day comes, it will not be because of man's approval, but because of God's hand. He will raise you, He will vindicate you, He will honor you, and He will make your story a light for others walking the same path. So walk forward, woman of God, not with fear, but with faith, not with despair, but with determination, not with shame, but with dignity. For you are not walking alone, you are walking with the very author of life, and with Him, you are complete, you are strong, and you are unstoppable. There is something sacred about the woman who chooses to walk alone rather than compromise the calling God has placed upon her. She is not desperate for man's approval, nor does she measure her worth by the presence of a partner. She has learned that her life is not defined by earthly validation, but by the voice of God that whispers in her heart. While others may say she is lacking, she knows she is full, because her fullness does not come from what is beside her, but from the God who dwells within her. The world may think she is weak, but in truth, she carries a strength that only God can give, a strength that does not shatter in the storms of life, a strength that does not fade when loneliness comes knocking at her door, because she is never truly alone. God Himself walks with her, sustains her, and becomes her everlasting companion. The power of a woman who lives without a man is that she has not allowed herself to be enslaved by society's expectations. She has chosen freedom under God rather than captivity under pressure. She has chosen dignity under God rather than dependence under fear. She has chosen her faith to be her anchor, her prayer to be her foundation, and her trust in God to be her daily bread. Such a woman confuses the enemy because every trap he sets against her falls flat when she calls upon the name of God. When others abandon her, when friends fail her, when family misunderstands her, she does not collapse because she has built her house on the rock of God's promises, and no storm can sweep her away. I tell you, a woman who walks alone with God is more powerful than a crowd that walks without Him. She is the testimony that you do not need man's presence to walk in God's purpose. She is the living proof that solitude is not a curse, but a season of sanctification. She is the example that being without a man does not mean being without a destiny. God does not measure you by your relationship status, but by your obedience, your faith, your devotion, and your willingness to walk where He leads. You see, many are enslaved by the fear of being alone, but the woman who has God knows she has more than the world could ever give. She has the voice of God guiding her steps, the peace of God calming her storms, and the favor of God opening doors no man could ever shut. To the woman who lives without a man, do not bow your head in shame. Do not let society whisper defeat into your soul. Do not let the enemy plant seeds of insecurity into your spirit. You are not forgotten. You are not less. You are not behind. You are chosen, you are strong, and you are exactly where God wants you to be. Your story is still being written by the hand of the Almighty, and He has not abandoned your page. If you will trust Him, He will turn your nights of solitude into mornings of strength. He will transform your tears into seeds of breakthrough. He will take the places where you thought you were alone and fill them with His presence so strongly that you will look back and say, "Had I not been alone, I would not have known the God who never leaves." The greatest tragedy is not a woman living without a man. The greatest tragedy is a woman living without God. But when God becomes your companion, you are never truly alone. You do not walk empty, you walk overflowing. You do not walk broken, you walk healed. You do not walk abandoned, you walk chosen. You do not walk in fear, you walk in the confidence of knowing that the Creator of heaven and earth calls you His own. And if God calls you His own, then what can man add or take away? Nothing. For what God ordains cannot be undone by human hands. So let the world call you single, let them call you lonely, let them call you incomplete. But let your soul rise up and say, "I am whole in God, I am rich in God, I am strong in God, and I am led by God." For in His eyes, you are not defined by what you lack, you are defined by what you carry. And what you carry is greater than any title, greater than any relationship, greater than any opinion. You carry the presence of the living God. And now, as we draw to a close, let this truth settle deep into your spirit. A woman who walks alone, yet walks with God, is never truly alone. The absence of man does not mean the absence of destiny. The silence of an empty room does not mean the silence of heaven. The world may measure value by companionship, but God measures value by faith. And when He looks at you, He does not see weakness. He does not see incompleteness. He sees His beloved creation, standing strong, radiant with purpose, unshaken by circumstance, upheld by His mighty hand. Lift your head, woman of God. Do not let shame, fear, or doubt weigh you down. Your solitude is not a punishment, it is a sanctuary. It is the place where God shapes you, strengthens you, and prepares you for victories yet unseen. It is in the quiet that He whispers wisdom. It is in the stillness that He pours out strength. It is in the moments others call loneliness that He clothes you with dignity and crowns you with His favor. So live boldly, live faithfully, live knowing that your worth is not determined by who walks beside you, but by the God who goes before you. Do not chase after validation from man when you already carry the approval of heaven. Do not fear the path you walk, for the one who holds the stars also holds your steps. And though you may walk without a man, you will never walk without God. That truth alone is enough to turn your solitude into power, your silence into song, and your life into a testimony of the unshakable strength that comes only from Him.